हो जाओ ऑक्टाइफेक्स कमाओ दूसरी सैलरी।
பிற்படுத்தப்பட்ட ஏழை எளிய கிராம மக்களுக்கு தரமான கல்வியை வழங்குவோம். தாய்மொழி தமிழை பாதுகாப்போம். சமத்துவ மருத்துவ படிப்புகளில் 27% இடஒதுக்கீடை பெற்று தந்தவரும் நம்முடைய மாண்புமிகு தமிழக முதல்வர் அவர்கள்தான், திராவிட முன்னேற்ற கழகம் தான். இந்தியா முழுவதும் பிற்படுத்தப்பட்ட மாணவர்களுக்கு உரிமையை பெற்று தந்த இந்த தீர்ப்பு இந்திய சமூக நீதி வரலாற்றில் ஒரு மைல்கல்லாக இருப்பதுடன் இந்தியாவுக்கே அது வழிகாட்டியாக அமைந்துள்ளது. முக்கியமாக கல்வியை முழுக்க முழுக்க ஒன்றிய அரசு தன்னுடைய கட்டுப்பாட்டுக்கு கொண்டு செல்ல அது முற்படுகின்றது. எல்லா கல்வி திட்டங்களையும் தேசிய அளவில் அமல்படுத்துவது, மாநில அரசின் கல்வி அதிகாரத்தை முழுவதுமாக பறிப்பது, இதுதான் இப்பொழுது நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. அதற்காகத்தான் புதிய கல்விக் கொள்கையை ஒன்றிய அரசு அறிமுகம் செய்துள்ளது. நீட் ஒரு தொடக்கம்தான். அதன் பிறகு இப்பொழுது கியூட் என்று அடுத்து ஒன்று கொண்டு வராங்க. அதன் பிறகு புதிய கல்விக் கொள்கை அப்படின்னு இன்னொரு திட்டத்தையும் கொண்டு வராங்க. முதல் கட்டமாக மத்திய பல்கலைக்கழகங்கள் நுழைவுத் தேர்வு எழுதி வெற்றி பெறாமல் எந்த படிப்பையும் படிக்கவே முடியாது. இது யுஜிசி மார்ச் மாதம் வெளியிட்டுள்ள அறிவிப்பு. இந்த திட்டத்தையும் எதிர்த்து சட்டமன்றத்தில் முதல் தலைவராக நம்முடைய தலைவர் அவர்கள் தீர்மானம் நிறைவேற்றியுள்ளார். இந்த நுழைவுத் தேர்வையும் நுழையும் நிலையிலேயே நாம் கண்டிப்பாக எதிர்ப்போம். கல்வி என்பது பொதுப்பட்டியலில் இருக்கிறது. மாநில அரசுக்கும் ஒன்றிய அரசுக்கும் கல்வியில் அதிகாரம் இருக்கிறது. ஆனால் ஒன்றிய அரசு நினைப்பதை மாநில அரசுகள் செய்ய வேண்டும் என்று நினைக்கிறது. மாநில அரசுகள் எந்த அதிகாரமும் இல்லாத அடிமைகள் என்று பாஜக நினைக்கிறது. உண்மையான தமிழர்கள் யாருக்கும் அடிமையாக இருந்து பழக்கம் கிடையாது என்பதை பாஜக உணர வேண்டும். எல்லாவற்றையும் விட மிகவும் ஆபத்தானது 3ஆம் வகுப்புக்கு பொதுத் தேர்வு. இது எவ்வளவு கொடுமையானது என்று நீங்கள் யோசித்து பார்க்க வேண்டும். 3வது படிக்கிற குழந்தைக்கு பொதுத் தேர்வு தேவையா என்று நாம் யோசித்து பார்க்க வேண்டும். அது மட்டும் இல்ல, 3ஆம் வகுப்புல பொதுத் தேர்வு, 5ஆம் வகுப்புக்கு பொதுத் தேர்வு, 8ஆம் வகுப்புக்கு பொதுத் தேர்வு. நம்முடைய குழந்தைகள் யாரும் படிக்கவே கூடாது என்ற ஒரே நோக்கத்தோடு தான் இந்த புதிய கல்விக் கொள்கை எல்லாம் கொண்டு வராங்க. ஒன்றிய அரசுடைய கல்விக் கொள்கை கூட்டாட்சி தத்துவத்துக்கு எதிரானது, சமூக நீதிக்கு எதிரானது, சமத்துவத்துக்கும் எதிரானது. இந்தியையும் சமஸ்கிருதத்தையும் திணிப்பது, மாநில மக்களின் பண்பாட்டை அழித்து இந்துத்துவ பண்பாட்டை புகுத்துவது. தாழ்த்தப்பட்ட பிற்படுத்தப்பட்ட ஏழை எளிய கிராமப்புற மக்களுக்கு கல்வி உரிமையை மறுத்து அவருடைய கல்வியை இருந்து வெளியேற்றுவது. எனவே இந்த புதிய கொள்கையை திராவிட முன்னேற்ற கழகம் தொடக்கத்திலேயே எதிர்த்து வந்திருக்கிறது. இதற்கு மாற்றாக நமது அரசு மாநில அளவில் கல்விக் கொள்கையை உருவாக்கி வருகிறது. அதற்காக மாண்புமிகு முதலமைச்சர் அவர்கள், தலைவர் அவர்கள் உயர்நிலை குழு அமைத்துள்ளார். இதன் முதல் கட்டமாக தமிழ்நாட்டில் இருக்கும் 13 பல்கலைக்கழகங்கள் துணைவேந்தர்களை ஆளுநருக்கு பதில் தமிழ்நாடு அரசே நியமிக்கும் என்ற சட்டமன்றத்தில் நாம் தீர்மானம் நிறைவேற்றியுள்ளோம். தமிழ்நாட்டில் இருக்கும் கல்லூரிகளையும் பல்கலைக்கழகங்களையும் அரசு நிதி ஒதுக்கி நிர்வாகம் செய்யும் போது பல்கலைக்கழக துணைவேந்தர்களை நியமிக்கும் அதிகாரம் மாநில அரசுக்குத்தான் இருக்கிறது. பல்கலைக்கழக பாடத்திட்டங்களையும் கல்விக் கொள்கைகளையும் தமிழ்நாடு அரசே முடிவு செய்யும். இதில் ஆளுநருக்கு எந்தவித அதிகாரமும் இல்லை. தமிழ்நாடு அரசின் கல்விக் கொள்கையை செயல்படுத்தும் தகுதியுள்ளவர்களை கண்டறிய மாநில அரசால் தான் முடியும். தமிழ் மக்களுக்கான கல்விக் கொள்கையை உண்மையான திராவிட இயக்கமான நாம் உருவாக்குவோம். தாழ்த்தப்பட்ட பிற்படுத்தப்பட்ட ஏழை எளிய கிராம மக்களுக்கு தரமான கல்வியை வழங்குவோம். தாய்மொழி தமிழை பாதுகாப்போம். சமத்துவ சமூக நீதியை என்றும் காப்போம். அனைவருக்கும் கல்வி என்று உயர்ந்த லட்சியத்தை பெரியாரும் பேரறிஞர் அண்ணாவும் முத்தமிழர் கலைஞரும் உயர்த்தி பிடித்த திராவிட இயக்கத்தின் லட்சியத்தை மாண்புமிகு முதல்வர் அவர்கள் வழி நின்று நாம் நிறைவேற்றி காட்டுவோம். பாஜக ஆளாத அனைத்து மாநில அரசுகளும் மாநில கட்சிகளும் பாரதிய ஜனதா கட்சியின் அந்த புதிய கல்விக் கொள்கையை எதிர்ப்பதில் ஓரணியில் நின்று பணியாற்ற வேண்டும் என்று கேட்டு என்னுடைய உரையை முடித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். I thank the participants who took part in this national conference on education, social justice and federalism organized by the DMK student wing. I also appreciate and thank Honorable Kerala State Minister of Law and Industries Thru Rajiv Sir, Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra Ma'am, CPI MP Santosh Kumar, Aam Aadmi Party MLA Somnath Bharati, former IAS officer Kannan Gopinathan, Kannaya Kumar belonging to the Indian National Congress, senior journalist Seema Sishti, social activist from West Bengal Garga Chatterjee and writer Dilip Mandal, who are with me and going to address this session in an informative and assertive manner. I would like to convey some parts of my speech in English for the understanding of the respected participants from other states. Education is not only an essential necessity for livelihood and a means to acquire knowledge, it is also a political weapon for the liberation of the oppressed section of the society, especially the people belonging to the SC, MBC, BC communities and the poor and the rural masses. The founding fathers and leaders of the Dravidian movement perceive education as a powerful weapon to achieve liberty, equality, dignity and self-respect. So the Dravidian movement began its journey with the declaration of education for all Till this moment, we are fighting for this principle. For several centuries, the elite and reactionary sections of the Indian society have been conspiring to keep the oppressed section of the society as an uneducated, illiterate people with the intention of denying equality, liberty, and self-respect to them. In this century, the elite and reactionary sections, the fascist forces, are represented by the BJP ruling the union government. NEET is one such conspiracy aimed at denying the medical education to the oppressed, poor, and marginalized sections of the society. Our sister, Anita, a young schoolgirl who scored 1,176 marks out of 1,200 marks in her plus 2 examination, fought a legal battle to obtain medical seat for her. She committed suicide since she was unable to get justice. In fact, those fascist and communal forces who are against social justice deprived medical education to Anita and drove her to suicide. The flame lit up by Anita against NEET is still burning in our hearts, and we are continuing the struggle. Democracy and federal principles are facing a major challenge in this country due to the authoritarian and arrogant stand of the BJP, which thinks that only the union government has powers to legislate and implement laws in education, which is in the concurrent list. The union government is trying to impose its new education policy on all states, including Tamil Nadu, which has a history of massive agitations against Hindi imposition. The policy tries to impose not only Hindi, but also Sanskrit. Does any developed nation in the world follow a 3-language policy in education? Why people of Tamil Nadu must learn 3 language? Language itself is not knowledge, but language is a means to acquire knowledge. The new education policy plans to conduct public examination for students of class number 3, 5, and 8. It is a clear attempt and a conspiracy to oust the oppressed section of the society from education. Tamil Nadu government had already announced that it will formulate its own education policy. Since education is a subject under concurrent list, states have every right to formulate their own policy. At this moment, I have an important request to the leaders and people of all the states in India. It is not enough if Tamil Nadu alone fights against NEET, CUTE, and new education policy. I request all the leaders and people in the country to stand against the fascist BJP government's conspiracy to deny education to the oppressed and poor sections of the society. I request you to join the struggle to safeguard social justice and federalism. We can achieve our goals only if we stand united and fight against the reactionary, backward, and anti-people forces headed by the BJP. I hope all of you join the struggle for the equality, dignity, self-respect, and liberation of the oppressed classes of India. Thank you. Nandri. Vanakkam.
Thank you, sir.
மிகச்சிறந்த ஒரு உரையாற்றி அமர்ந்திருக்கிற திராவிட முன்னேற்ற கழக இளைஞர் அணியினுடைய செயலாளர் அண்ணன் இளந்தலைவர் அவர்களுக்கு பலத்த கரவோசை எழுப்பி நாம் நன்றிகளை பதிவு செய்யலாம்.
We once again thank our youth icon Udayanidhi Stalin, and let's put our hands together for Udayanidhi Stalin, ladies and gentlemen.
அடுத்து கேரள அரசின் தொழில் மற்றும் சட்டத்துறை அமைச்சர் மாண்புமிகு பி ராஜு அவர்களை உரையாற்ற அன்புடன் அழைக்கிறோம்.
We welcome Honorable P. Rajiv, Minister of Industries, Law and Coir, Government of Kerala, to address the gathering.
President of the meeting, CVMP, Edilers and MLA, Secretary DMK Student Wing, Chief Guest, Mr. Udayanidhi Stalin MLA, Secretary DYF Youth Wing, and Madam Mona Moitra MP, P. Santosh Kumar MP, Somnath Bharati MLA and ex-minister Delhi, my friend Kannan Gobinathan, Kanaya Kumar, Srimati Seema Chishti, Karga Chatterjee, Dilip Mandal, and Dr. Govi Cherian, and dear friends. எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். எனக்கு தமிழ் தெரியாது, என் தாய்மொழி மலையாளம். அதனால் நான் ஆங்கிலத்தில் பேச போகிறேன், மன்னிப்பின். At the outset, I would like to congratulate the student wing of DMK, for inviting all of us to this stage in Chennai. Some of us are from south of the country, some of us are from north of the country, some of us are from east of the country and west of the country. Some of us are speaking Malayalam and some of us are speaking in Hindi, Urdu, Bengali, Marathi, and so and so. We are eating different foods, we are wearing different dresses, and we have different cultures, and also we have different political opinion. Actually, this is India. This stage resembles the idea of India. And also, the topic is very important. You have conducting this conference on education, social justice, and federalism. Actually, I would not like to take more time. All of them are present here are very great orators. Some of them are known as our lady tigers, roaring lions, and you are waiting to hear all of them. Actually, this topic is most important. I think you have selected this topic due to the development in political scenario of our country. Now, Mr. Udayanidhi Stalin has correctly stated that federalism is under attack, parliamentary system is under attack, secularism is under attack, our constitution is under attack. Actually, our country is under attack. That is the reality. He has mentioned some examples about the actions of your governor. The union government is trying to destabilizing the elected state governments by using different instruments. Sometimes they are utilizing central investigation agencies to destabilizing the state governments. They have enacted several acts which is actually come under the state list of the constitution. Petrol and diesel, our Mr. Edilson has mentioned something regard to petrol and diesel price rise. They have imposed only cess and special taxes. There is no provision to get a share to the states, only to the central government. In some states, they are utilizing the post of governor. The actions of the governor of Tamil Nadu are controversial. Not only to the actions of the Tamil Nadu governor, the actions of the governors of the state which are ruling by non-BJP parties are controversial. He has stated that the governor is not ready to give his assent to the bill passed by the Legislative Assembly. The governors are sitting on the bills passed by the Legislative Assembly. How can a governor can sit on the bill passed by a Legislative Assembly? Whether there is any extra constitutional authority to the governors of the states which are ruling by non-BJP states to act like this? Who is the governor? What are the powers of the governor? Whether he is the executive of a state? These are old questions, not new questions. All these questions are debated and settled by the Constituent Assembly itself. There was different opinions. The governor should be elected one. Some members argued that there should not be any post like governor. It is against the principle of democracy. By concluding the debate, the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, had clarified the position, and that position was unanimously adopted by the Constituent Assembly. I would like to quote the speech, some remarks of Dr. Ambedkar while concluding his this debate in Constituent Assembly on 1949, May 31st, with regard to the article of with regard to governor. I quote, "The drafting committee felt as everybody in this house knows, that the governor is not to have any kind of function. This is the remarks of Ambedkar, and this is the decision of the Constituent Assembly. The governor is not to have any kind of function. To use a familiar phraseology, no function which he is required to discharge either in his or in his individual judgment. According to the principle of new constitution, this Constitution of India, he is required to follow the advice of his ministry in all matters. This is the conclusion of the Constituent Assembly with regard to the powers of the governor. Somebody is arguing for an election to the post of governor. Look, having regard to this fact, it was felt whether it was desirable to impose upon the electorate the obligation to enter upon an electoral process which would cost a lot of time, a lot of trouble, and I say a lot of money as well. It was also felt nobody, please hear this, nobody knowing full well what powers he is likely to have under the Constitution would come forth to contest an election. No credible person is not ready to contest an election for the post of a governor because there is no powers. We felt that the powers of the governor were so limited, so nominal. His position is so ornamental. This is the words of Dr. Ambedkar. This is the conclusion of the Constituent Assembly on the debate with regard to the powers of the governor. The powers of the governor or the post of the governor is totally ornamental. That probably very few would come forward to stand for election. This is the conclusion of Constituent Assembly. That I have mentioned. These questions are settled earlier by the Constituent Assembly itself. I request Governor of Tamil Nadu to find some time from his busy schedule to read the Constitution along with the Constituent Assembly debates, what powers he has to implement. Actually, we are well aware of the beginning of the preamble of our Constitution. It is not like I, the Governor of India, Governor of Tamil Nadu. No. I, the President of India. No. The preamble of the Constitution begins, we, the people of India. We, the people of India. The people of India are ruling the country by its representatives. That is the democratic system. The country had adopted a parliamentary democratic system. The country had not adopted a presidential system. We had adopted parliamentary democratic system. This was also a debating point. Somebody argued the preamble of the Constitution should begin with, in the name of God. There was an argument. The interesting fact that there was no representative of Hindutva force in the Constituent Assembly. But there was a persons who carrying Hindutva ideology in the name of the big political party of that time in the Constituent Assembly. And this debate concluded by voting. In the name of God, the God was defeated by 60-80-41 votes. That was the reality in the Constituent Assembly. God was defeated in the Constituent Assembly. 68 votes in favor of we, the people of India, 41 votes in favor of God, in the name of God. Then we, the people of India. The people of India is ruling this country through their representatives. It is the wisdom of the Legislative Assembly which reflects the wish of the people to decide whether the students of Tamil Nadu should be exempted from NEET or not. It is the right of the Legislative Assembly. It is the wisdom of that house to pass on legislation. There is no role for the governor of a state to take an action on the bill passed by the legislature. Look, the remarks of the apex court of the country few days back with regard to the actions of your governor. The act of the governor of Tamil Nadu sets out a bad precedent. This strikes at the federal structure of the country. Few days back, this is the remarks, observation of the apex court of the country, Supreme Court of the country. He cannot just say that if he cannot decide, he will send it to the president. Here is no discretionary power to the governor. That is ornamental. The governor should recognize this ornamental status. Here is no status to overact on the decisions of an elected cabinet. Justice Nageshwar Rao observed, we are not prima facie willing to accept your statement. What is the statement? The governor does not have an independent role under the constitution to say that the cabinet is wrong. No. This is the remarks of the apex court. The governor has no independent role under the constitution to say that the cabinet is wrong and will take a different route. This is a well settled position. All governors, they have enough time, should read the constitution, read the Constituent Assembly debate, and should find where is their place in this country. Then education. Actually, education was a state subject, not only in post-colonial period, but in pre-colonial period. According to the Government of India Act 1935, state education was a state subject. And as per our constitution, it was a state subject. Thereafter, during the period of emergency, as per 42nd Amendment of the Constitution, education has converted as a concurrent, placed in a concurrent list, but without the consent of the state legislature. By routing the constitutional mechanism to amend the constitution thanks to the emergency. That was the reality. During my parliament period, at the then Congress government had tried to move a bill to constitute a university, Bundelkhand University in Uttar Pradesh. I was in Rajya Sabha at that time. We were together in the committee. I had raised an objection. I had raised what is the legislative competency of a parliament to make a law to establish a university. There's a great debate in the parliament. Then Kapil Sibal, the then HRD minister, stated that this house had passed several legislation to incorporate university. Then I said on behalf of the left, you cannot overrule the constitutional provision by precedence. As per the constitution, incorporation of university in state list, not in concurrent list, not in union list. If the university has a national importance, then the parliament has the legislative competency. In the bill itself, there should be a clause, this university has a national importance. Otherwise, the parliament has no legislative competency to pass an act to incorporate a university. It is the legislative power of the legislative assemblies of the states. That is the reality. But what is happening now? Now, the central union government has taken all powers. They are formulating the policies. They have declared this common understanding so and so. They have declared Hindi is the national language. No national language as per our constitution. National language reflects the tradition, legacy, culture of a country. As per our constitution, we have two official languages, Hindi in Devanagari Lipi and English. Earlier English for 15 years, thereafter 1963 the parliament has passed Official Language Act, then indefinitely English as an official language. In India, there is no regional language. Some of us are speaking Malayalam is a regional language, Tamil, no regional language as per constitution. As per constitution, scheduled 8, all these languages are scheduled language. And giving the status and encouraging, officiating this language for our communication. This is the constitutional provision, and the provision included in the 1963 Official Language Act. That is the reality. I would like to conclude. You look to the first, earlier I have mentioned the beginning of the preamble. You please have a look to the first article of Indian Constitution. India, that is Bharat, should be a union of states. That is the first article of Indian Constitution. India, that is Bharat, should be a union of states. Each and every state has its own existence, its own identity, its own culture, its own language. This is the union of states. India, not Hindustan. Our Prime Minister always mentioning Hindustan. It was a debated point in Constituent Assembly. Some members argued for Hindustan. Some members argued for Bharatavarsha. Some members argued for Akhanda Bharat. Some members argued for Bharat. At last, Constituent Assembly unanimously declared, this is not Hindustan, this is India, that is Bharat. That is our first article of Indian Constitution. So, these are the federal, these are the basic structures of our Constitution. Federalism, democracy, and secularism. Nobody can dismantle the basic structure of our Constitution. Even Parliament has no power to touch the basic structure of Constitution. That is the reality. Then we should stand together to protect the basic structure of our Constitution. I hope this conference will help to stand together to protect the identity of our country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Ms. Moitra. I hope I pronounced your name right, ma'am. So she's an Indian politician and also a member of the Parliament, West Bengal. Ma'am is known for her impassioned speeches. We all have seen her speak and make strong arguments for the causes she strongly believes in. So once again, let's welcome Mowa Moitra.
மோவா மைத்ரா இவர் திரிணாமுல் காங்கிரஸ் கட்சியினுடைய முக்கிய தலைவர்களில் ஒருவர். மேற்கு வங்காளத்தினுடைய கிருஷ்ணா நகர் நாடாளுமன்ற தொகுதியினுடைய உறுப்பினர். நாடாளுமன்றத்தின் பெண் புலி என்று அனைவராலும் பாராட்டப்படுபவர். பாஜகவின் மதவாதத்திற்கு எதிரான இவரின் பாராளுமன்ற பேச்சுக்கள் வலைதளங்களில் பிரபலம். இவர் கரீம்பூரின் சட்டமன்ற உறுப்பினராக இருந்துள்ளார். இப்பொழுது இவர் திரிணாமுல் காங்கிரஸ் கட்சியினுடைய பொதுச் செயலாளராகவும் தேசிய தொடர்பாளராகவும் பணியாற்றி வருகிறார். இப்பொழுது நம்மோடு.
Thank you very much, and thank you to every single one of you who invited me here. I'm honored and thrilled to be here and to see so much of youthful energy in this room. Thank you to the DMK party's youth wing and to the very dynamic leadership of Udayanidhi Stalin, and to all my colleagues from the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, MLAs, but that's not important. What is important is all of you. From Presidency College, from Law College, from the doctors here, all of you, thank you for being here. I'm going to make it very short and sweet. And why are we here today? It's great. I was listening to the Honorable Law Minister of Kerala, Mr. Rajiv, who spoke very well, and I hope all of you, especially the law students, listen to what he said. And, he said, this is India, that we're all sitting here. There's somebody from Karnataka, there's somebody from Kerala, there's somebody from Bengal, there's somebody from Bihar, there's somebody from Delhi, and this is India. So there's no one version of India. There is no Hindu India. There is no Hindi India. And more important, there's no Hindutva India. Is that correct or is that not correct? The reason we are standing here today on a platform provided by the Dravidian movement, we must understand that today where we are standing is I would say, the birth spring, the wellspring of the social justice movement in India, of equality. And this party was set up in 1949, am I correct? 17 September 1949. The year 1949 is coincidentally a year in which George Orwell wrote his book 1984. 1984 was perhaps one of the first books of the dystopian genre when George Orwell envisioned a future in which there was this super state. The name of the super state was Oceania. And Oceania was controlled by a few leaders called the Ingsoc. And they wanted a new language called Newspeak. And what was Newspeak? Newspeak was a new language in place 2 + 2 would be equal to 5. And they had 4 ministries. They had a ministry of peace that dealt with war. They had a ministry of love which dealt with, I would request you guys, we can keep the coffee waiting later. Could we just sit down and listen perhaps? My young friends in the back, we've come a long way to talk to you. Do you want to just sit down perhaps? Okay, I'll wait till you sit down. I'm used to being heckled in Parliament, but I'll wait till you guys settle down. And can I request you all to settle down? Please, guys, settle down and sit down, and then. Thank you. Thank you very much. So like I was saying, there were 4 ministries. There was the Ministry of Peace that dealt with war, the Ministry of Love, which dealt with torture. You had the Ministry of Plenty, which dealt with starvation. But most important, you had the Ministry of Truth, which dealt with only lies. The Ministry of Propaganda was inside the Ministry of Truth. Now, think of where we are today. Orwell said this was a world where everybody would be watching. There would be TV screens where every single citizen, resident of Oceania would be watched all the time. Is this not where we are living today? Does this not remind you of the dystopian reality that we are facing in India today? And this Ministry of Truth and the Ministry of Propaganda had this language called Newspeak, like I said, where 2 + 2 would also be equal to 5. That is the India where we are facing today. Everyone had a different topic to speak about. The topic, I would really request if we could please have some silence in the hall. It's really impossible to speak.
தயவுசெய்து கொஞ்சம் அமைதி காக்கும்படி கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். அனைவரும் உட்காரும்படி கேட்கிறோம். இருக்கையில் அமருமாறு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம்.
மாணவர் அணி தோழர்கள் யாரும் அந்த டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன் ஆஃப் எதுவும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. ஒரு முக்கியமான உரையை ஆற்றிக் கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். நாடாளுமன்றமே உற்று நோக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு சிறந்த சொற்பொழிவாளராக இருக்கக்கூடிய பார்லிமெண்டரியன் இங்கே உங்களுக்காக ஒரு சிறந்த கருத்துக்களை பதிவு செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிற நேரத்தில்